Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at an opinion article from the New York Times that was written by John Rich, who's an op-ed contributor there. It was published on November 21st. And it goes to show that the left, they're just a little bit scared when it comes to Uranium One. They're worried that it's going to take Hillary down and a bunch of other people with it, including Obama. So they're doing everything to try to say there's nothing to see here, which is why they're doing an opinion piece on this. If this was factually based, if they had fact on their side, they'd be running this as a story, not an opinion piece. It doesn't take, someone of the caliber, intelligence-wise, of, say, a neurosurgeon or a rocket scientist or a nuclear physicist to figure out that's what's going on here. This uranium deal was no scandal. In 2010, Rosatom, the Russian nuclear energy company, bought a controlling interest in Uranium One, a Canadian-based company that owned valuable extraction rights in Kazakhstan. I can't even say that right now. Kazakhstan, Canada, and Australia. These three countries are the world's largest uranium producers, and Russia's acquisition of those rights served its ambitions to build and fuel nuclear power plants around the world. Oh, it served more than that. And I love how they start out like this, because they're not covering the fact that it also includes actual and factual uranium in the United States. See, can't start out with that, because then that actually lends credence to Uranium One. It's kind of funny, So, on a side note, that's what they're making this sound like with this next paragraph. In an ancillary part of the deal, on a side note, Rosatom also bought mining rights in the United States where uranium production is sparse. Well, it's not that it's sparse; it's the fact that we don't mine a lot of it. We have a lot of reserves for our country. These rights were initially estimated to represent 20% of American production. No, they weren't estimated. It's an actual matter of fact. Nice try twisting it there. Because watch, you're going to say, here you are lying about it after that. This figure has averaged less than 10%. No, it's 20% of, they bought a total of 20% of the reserves. What production out of it is a different story, which is what you're trying to say here. Overall, Rosatom's purchase of Uranium One transferred control of what now amounts to about 8% of the world's uranium output. The American portion represents about 1/13 of the deal. No! I love how you're playing with numbers here and not taking and giving actual context, because it is a matter of fact. You lying sack of propagandist shit. Okay, John. I have to go look up your name here, John. Okay. It is a matter of fact it was 20%, not estimated. And now you're trying to say, well, it's 1/13 of the deal. Sure it is. And you're like, oh, well, it's just 8% of the world's uranium output. Oh, my God. Missing the point that if Russia is so bad, because you people are trying to portray Russia as so bad that Russia wants to destroy America. Well, if they do, don't you think it would be a bad thing for them to have even 1% or 1/2 of 1% of American production? Because to me, you really don't want who you are claiming is an enemy being on the left, you and your ilk. You really don't want their hands in our uranium, okay? And to say that, oh, they just want to build nuclear reactors is a crock of fucking shit, because not only are they building, your normal run-of-the-mill power generation ones, they're building the ones that enrich material. But you see, you're leaving that out. The same exact type of reactors that Bill Clinton gave, Rocket Man. So, yeah, we don't want them building those and enriching material with our uranium. Now, do we? At the time, none of this was considered remarkable or controversial. Bullshit. Okay? You're a lying sack of shit, because you know what? Let me show you something from 2014 from your own newspaper. Okay? So, we're going to go to Google. We're going to go and we're going to type in New York Times Uranium One 2014. Cash flowed to Clinton Foundation amid uranium deal. This is actual news being reported by the New York Times. Okay? Or actually, sorry, it's from 2015. I don't know why I was thinking 2014, but this was published on April 23rd, 2015. Okay? And if you read this, there's actually quite a bit to this that's pretty serious. So for you to say when your own publication is saying this is a big deal, that this money's going to the Clintons, okay, for you, when it's been reported by your paper to say, oh, there's nothing to see here, goes to show how full of shit you are. Really does. The governments of Kazakhstan, Canada, and Australia approved the transfer as a normal commercial transaction. Well, maybe there were politicians in those countries that took money like Hillary Clinton did. Okay? Huh. I wonder. Maybe, because, hey, maybe Obama and Hillary, weren't the only ones to put money in their pockets for this deal. Similarly, the United States' part in the deal was authorized by a panel of officials from 9 federal agencies, including the State Department, then led by Hillary Clinton, which kind of backs the Uranium One thing, because Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, okay? One of, if not the most powerful people, one of the most powerful people, if not the most powerful person in Washington at the time. Okay, including over Obama. And you're going to try to play it like, oh, she had nothing to do with it. Ignore the $100 and some odd million that went into her foundation and that she pocketed. It was $145 million, actually. So, yeah, this is hilarious. But in 2016, in the run-up to the presidential campaign, the sale became notorious. Actually, no. Back in 2015, it was notorious. So, don't try to play it like that, you propagandist little shit. A growing chorus of Trump supporters claimed that the sale didn't happen for business reasons, but in exchange for millions in donations by people associated with Uranium One to the Clinton Foundation, led by Mrs. Clinton's husband, former President Bill Clinton. Actually, try run by Chelsea. You can't even get that right. Okay? Chelsea been running the foundation. Which is why in the DNC email leaks and the Podesta email leaks, there's actually, emails with her saying how Haiti isn't getting a dime of the money being donated to the Clinton Foundation. And she's begging her mother for answers. So if she'll screw the Haitians over like that, which WikiLeaks proved, you're going to try to play it like this? I don't think so. Okay, because it was more than just Trump supporters that have been chiming in on this since 2015. The allegation appeared in a 2015 book, Clinton Cash, by Peter Schweizer, a collaborator of Steve Bannon, then head of Breitbart News and later Donald Trump's chief strategist. Lie much? He worked for Breitbart. Just because he worked for Breitbart does not make him a Steve Bannon collaborator. But yet, anyone who works for Breitbart, according to you, I bet, is a Steve Bannon collaborator. Mainstream news organizations, including the New York Times, investigated the deal and it became subject of near daily attacks from Breitbart News itself. Yeah. So, wait a minute. The article that I pulled up? You're actually using the article that I pulled up that says that hundreds of millions of dollars flowed into the Clinton Foundation during this to back you up? Are you seriously that stupid? You admit in that article that she took in hundreds of millions of dollars from these people. And then you go, oh, there's nothing to see here. Holy sweet Jesus. You are a moron. You don't think if someone like me sitting in front of a computer with, a cheap microphone can call you out on this shit, you don't think that other people are going to call you out that have way more reach than I do? You really are a moron. At campaign rallies, Mr. Trump rudely led chants of lock her up in reference to Mrs. Clinton. Yeah, but they had nothing to do with Uranium One, but you're trying to imply that. They had to do with, I don't know, her email scandal where she deleted 33,000 emails, bleach bit the server, was having people intentionally take classified material, through, extraordinary means off of classified systems and email it to her on a server sitting in her bathroom. That's a good reason to lock her up. But yet you're trying to conflate the two to be like, well, there's no reason to lock her up because Uranium One, there's nothing. Well, there's that right there. And that's a big-ass friggin' scandal, what she did. And it has nothing to do with intent. She broke the law regardless of intent. There's nothing in the law that says that there has to be intent. So she should be prosecuted for that. She should be locked up for it. Now Mr. Trump, whose campaign is under investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller for possible collaborating with Russia to manipulate voters last year, is calling once more for an investigation of the deal. I love how they throw this in. This goes to show how worried they are. Because they know that the Russian narrative is not sticking. They know that the Russian narrative is falling apart. So they keep repeating it. Because they keep talking about this investigation, but yet it's never really focusing on Trump with Russia because they've got nothing. So they're going after everyone else and they're trying to find any which way through, 65 degrees of separation, a link to Russia so that they can try to flip these people and try to get Trump on anything they possibly can. It won't be Russia. They won't get him on anything. But if they were to get him on something, it will never be Russia. And you guys know this, which is why you're pushing this crap. Okay, and it went, because this is funny, because New York Times started out saying, oh, Russia hacked the election. Then people started going, well, wait a minute. How can you hack an election when you have paper ballots? Can't hack those. You have digital optical scantrons that just tally, and you still have the paper ballots with that. You have unnetworked computerized voting machines, and no way that these are all interconnected via a network. So how could they hack it? And you went, well, that. And then you turned to influence. And your initial influence was so weak, it was 2 articles or 2 reports. One was an article, one I believe was an actual report, like, television type report. And the article was from Sputnik, and it was like an actual television report from RT. Both of them were critical of Hillary Clinton, and to you guys, that was Russian influence. Now, It's, oh, all these people out there are Russian bots, and $100,000 going back to years prior to the election that weren't even, when there wasn't even a run, a running up and gearing up, I should say, to the election itself. A lot of that money was spent prior to that, that point of the gear up for the election. And you're trying to say that influenced. You're completely, like, losing on this whole narrative. You jumped the shark, and you're falling right into the shark cage. It's hilarious. It is so fucking hilarious. In response, the Justice Department is examining whether to assign special counsel to review the case. 2 Republican-led congressional committees have also started investigations. And what gets me is I love how you leave out that a member of Congress is pretty much the one who is pressuring the DOJ to open an investigation. Okay? Trump isn't. It's a member of Congress. And I wish I could remember his name for the life of me. But yeah, so you're completely misrepresenting the situation with that too. By now, the allegation has been widely undermined, usually on 2 grounds. First, there's no evidence that Mrs. Clinton played an active role in the sales approval. She's the Secretary of State. Her job is to play an active role in those exact type of things. But there's no proof she did. Well, if she didn't, then she wasn't doing her job, and she should give back the money that she was paid to do the damn job. That's simple. Second, the major contributor of Uranium One related donations to the Clinton Foundation, Frank Gustria, has said that he sold his stake in the company 3 years before Rosatom's purchase. That don't mean that he isn't involved. Holy crap. Ever hear of him being an intermediary? I mean, you hand him the money, he hands it to Hillary. That's not that hard to figure out. Let's audit his books. Let's have the IRS go through his finances. Because I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. They handed him the money. He took the money and then handed it to her. Because he sold his quote-unquote stake. That doesn't mean that he still didn't own shares in the company. That was probably his stake on the note of, like, not your average run-of-the-mill stock. But the story's purveyors are persistent. Well, they're not purveyors of a story, okay? These are people who are pushing to have justice done with that minimum an investigation to prove whether or not what you're claiming, okay, has been, oh, well, this has already been proven. No, that shit hasn't been proven. We need an investigation to prove it. But you don't want that, which is why you're saying, there's nothing to see here. This has already been proven complete bullshit. So, please don't look into it. You're worried. We get it. We love it, too. It's beautiful. It is so beautiful. Relying on the evocative power of uranium, they assert that Russia gained a strategic prize in the United States and in a suspicious way. Well, yeah, because, let's see, they did literally get 20% of our uranium reserves. They found a loophole to get it out of the United States, which I love how you're not even touching the fact of, oh, well, they can't even remove it from the United States, because then, someone like me who's even bringing it up now without you even doing that would show how full of shit you are, because they just had to bring the uranium into Canada, and then from Canada over to Europe, and they literally took uranium out of the United States. Dude, you are like the worst propagandist out there. As opposed to the Trump campaign's supposed collusion with Russians, they argue, it is a Clinton-Russia crime that should be investigated. Oh, I love this. Yeah, the supposed collusion that your narrative is falling apart on, that you keep moving the goalpost on, that's why we're like, when it comes to, that whole investigation, we're like, yeah, whatever, it's bullshit. Get done with it. We know you're full of shit. And then we know with the Clinton-Russia thing that it should be investigated. I mean, oh, Hillary Clinton's a perfect little angel. This is the same woman who was caught with her husband taking bribes from high-ranking Chinese CCP members. Members of the Chinese Communist Party that were, quote-unquote, businessmen. Okay? So much so that Saturday Night Live with Norm Macdonald at the news desk, we're calling them out for their corruption left, right, and center. Okay? A leopard does not change her spots. I'm sorry to break it to you. It don't happen. But the mining rights that Russia acquired in the United States are strategically and commercially this just aggravates me. Insignificant. Why? Because you say so? 20% of our reserves is not insignificant. No one should be fooled into thinking that they justify the very serious allegations made by Mr. Trump and his allies. He's not the one bringing up Uranium One. He was talking about our email server. He might have mentioned Uranium One since. But that was after. Oh, I don't know. Hannity and, oh God, tons of people in the alternative media that aren't even, on the right were bringing up Uranium One. So don't try to play it that, oh, look at Trump and his people. They're the ones pushing for this. No, it's people that aren't even the people you claim that are pushing for an investigation. Uranium One is mined in many countries, but uranium ore is mined in many countries, but about 70% of the world production comes from just 3 countries. Kazakhstan, almost 40%, Canada, over 20%, and Australia, nearly 10%. Of 68,000 tons mined annually, most goes to nuclear power utilities in some 30 countries. Now, here's the thing. This is completely misleading, because the United States has a good reserve of uranium, and you're trying to compare the reserve, okay, which they got 20% of the total reserve. We don't mine much of our own uranium because of regulation and, and federal law. It makes it very cost prohibitive, So we're not doing that. We're not mining it. And it's also the fact of, why mine your own uranium when you can use everybody else's and keep yours in reserve? I mean, that's just smart thinking. So that's why, when it comes to production levels, the United States is so small. American utilities buy nearly 1/3 of global uranium output, again, because of what I just went through. But mining in the United States only accounts for 2% of that total, again, because of what I just went through. That means that operators of American nuclear reactors get about 90% of their nuclear fuel from foreign sources. Again, for the reasons that I just went through. That supply is dependable because the global uranium market works reliably. This has no relation to the Uranium One story, but I love how you're throwing it in. Supply and demand governs price. Buyers and sellers interact personally, and their companies adhere to safeguards that ensure safe and legal use. Can I just say I find it really fucked up that a leftist is talking about free enterprise with a material that could be used to wipe him out with a flash of bright light. This is funny. For the United States, supply is further assured by the resources of our neighboring ally Canada, while also the fact that we're not dipping into our own reserves. Russia, which mines 5% of the global output, enjoys a similar position vis-a-vis Kazakhstan. As for nuclear weapons, both Russia and the United States have stockpiles of highly enriched uranium from post-Cold War arms reductions. Neither country needs to ever fear a shortage of uranium for weapons or electricity. So, do you ever think of the fact that, I mean, it would be better for the United States to keep that under their own control, just in case, so, you know, where you say Russia's the big, bad, evil country that it is, that it doesn't say, you know, give Syria nuclear capabilities or anything like that, using American uranium? Huh. That might be, you know, a reason to be, you know, just a little concerned. Even though you're like, well, we've got all this and it shouldn't really matter. That's like the stupidest thing you could say in response to this situation. Because American mining yields only 2% of the world output because of the reasons why I said, and under 10% of that comes from the Uranium One license, the allegation that this was a major prize for Russians turns out to be absurd. Less than 1/5 of 1% of global output comes from Uranium One's holdings in the United States. Yeah, global output. How much of the United States actual output? How much of the actual reserve of the United States for uranium do they have? Like, as in what we have in the ground. Oh, that's right, 20%, which you keep trying to screw with that number and be like, well, it's not really 20%. They literally got 20% of the United States in the ground reserve of uranium. Okay? That's a sizable chunk of our actual reserve. So which is why you're trying to twist and make this sound like a totally different situation than what it is on the numbers. You're a shady, shifty, sleazy person for doing it. A comparison illuminates just how tiny this molehill is. In February 1993, a newly inaugurated President Clinton. Oh, we got to bring in Bill Clinton here. Fuck that woman on top of the Resolute desk. Let me tell you that sugar cookie. Whoa, her ass could jiggle while I was banging her. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's the guy you're bringing in for this one. Okay, so a newly inaugurated President Clinton joined with President Boris Yeltsin of Russia in an accord that embodied, on a scale unique in history, the ideal of turning swords into plowshares. The agreement's premise was that nuclear arms reductions could yield fissile material for electricity generation, particularly in the United States. Complete bullshit. Because why? Oh, everyone knows that even back then, I mean, well before that, there was no way that there was going to be any new nuclear power plants built in the United States. So to try to make this claim is complete, dishonest, disingenuous bullshit. Okay? It is. There's, what, a small number? They weren't really going to chew through that much fissionable material. So, don't know what to tell you. This was a cover for this shit. Under a plan called Megatons to Megawatts, the Russian government took uranium for 20,000 Soviet-era nuclear warheads, converted it for nuclear power generation, then sold it to American utilities as fuel for some 100 reactors that produce nearly 20% of domestic electricity. And I remember this. Okay, but you're trying to make it sound like this is a situation where this is like a big thing. This was going to be like the next big thing. And you're failing to leave out the fact of why this deal was made. Oh, let's bring the history into that deal. You had at the time a very unstable Russia with its former Soviet republics and newly formed countries from the former USSR being unstable as well. There was a fear that if the U.S. did not purchase this uranium, it would end up in the hands of terrorists. That's why we did it. It was to put an influx of cash into the young Russian Republic, while making sure that fissionable material didn't end up in the wrong hands. Yet you're trying to make it sound like it was something different. I mean, they went over that a lot on why it was being done back when it was being done. So, were you not alive? Were you too young to remember? Were you off in La La Land when this incident, this situation you're bringing up here with megatons to megawatts, when that was a thing? Were you even around for it? The plan ran for 20 years, and in most of that period provided nearly half of the uranium used in the United States reactors. This meant that 1 out of every 10 American light bulbs were powered by fissionable material, not once contained in nuclear warheads aimed at the United States and its allies. Yeah. But you're leaving out the reason why we were purchasing the fissionable material. That big fact that we didn't want it getting into the wrong hands, and we were trying to throw money into Russia because we didn't want, the government to go tits up and end up with like a worse situation than, the USSR was prior to the Russian Republic. Yeah. Just be a little sleazy here, buddy. The Clinton-Yeltsin deal was a landmark success, resulting in the United States acquiring the equivalent to over 150,000 tons of Russian uranium, more than double annual world output. Yes, and again, it was done for the reasons why I said, not why you're claiming. The Uranium One deal, in contrast, has resulted in a Russian-owned company extracting an average of about 150 tons of United States uranium a year and then selling it into what is essentially a global market. This is not a significant amount, and this deal was not a scandal. But here's the thing. They were proven to not be dumping this into the open market. They were proven to be bringing it into Canada, then into Europe to bring it directly into Russia. So, why are you... Oh, that's right. You're running scared with Hillary. You don't want to see her and Obama and a lot of other people like Mueller all end up, I don't know, sharing cells in Leavenworth while they're waiting to be hung for treason? Could that be why you're pushing this shit? Because what they did was treason. You had a sitting president literally commit treason. Well, he also did that with Operation Fast and Furious when he's handing guns to people like El Chapo, but hey. Anyway, I think I've covered this well enough, and I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.